Have you ever been told that you're too independent or too quiet? You're not strange or missing something. In fact, if you find comfort in solitude as you get older, it might actually point to some of the most remarkable strengths a person can have. While many assume that people who prefer to be alone are simply shy or withdrawn, the truth is far deeper. There's a distinct set of personality traits that often emerge in seniors who enjoy solitude. And once you understand what they are, you might see your quiet nature in a whole new light. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 distinct personality traits commonly found in seniors who like to be alone. These aren't negative qualities. They're signs of emotional depth, wisdom, and strength, traits that many people never fully develop because they're constantly distracted by noise and social obligations. As you listen, you might find yourself nodding, thinking, that's exactly how I've always been. And instead of wondering why you don't always fit into busy social circles, you'll start to appreciate the quiet power of who you are. So whether you've always preferred your own company or you've grown into solitude over time, stay tuned. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand these traits more clearly, but you may walk away feeling more confident, more validated, and more connected to the person you've always been beneath the surface. And if that sounds like something worth discovering, I invite you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos made just for you. Let's begin. Trait 1: Deep thinkers. People who enjoy spending time alone often carry a mind that never truly rests. They're deep thinkers, individuals who use solitude not to escape life, but to understand it. While others may rush through days filled with noise and stimulation, these seniors take time to reflect. They process conversations after they've happened. They revisit old memories not to dwell, but to draw lessons. They think about what things mean, not just what they appear to be on the surface. Take Leonard and Ralph, both 74. Leonard is always surrounded by people, clubs, meetings, phone calls. His calendar is full, but his thoughts often skim the surface. Ralph, on the other hand, spends quiet mornings with a cup of tea and a notebook. He writes about what he's learned, about what matters to him, and what patterns he sees in people and the world. He doesn't talk as much as Leonard, but when he does, his words land with more weight, because they've been carefully formed in the stillness of thought. Being a deep thinker doesn't mean being distant. It means having a rich inner world. It means your mind is a place you enjoy visiting. These are the folks who connect the dots, who ask why when others accept what, and who make sense of things most people overlook. They're not looking for surface-level chatter. They're seeking meaning in conversations, in books, in memories, and in the passing of time. And because of that, they often age with a sense of clarity. They don't fear silence. They use it. They don't need the world to validate their thinking because they trust their own judgment. That kind of mental self-sufficiency is rare, and it's one of the clearest signs that someone who prefers solitude may, in fact, have one of the sharpest minds in the room. Trait 2: Emotionally independent. When someone reaches a point in life where they feel genuinely comfortable being alone, it often signals something deeper than just preference. It points to emotional independence. Seniors who enjoy solitude aren't avoiding connection. They're simply not dependent on it to feel whole. They've learned that their peace doesn't rely on who calls, who visits, or who praises them. Instead, it's built from within. Consider Martha and Irene, both 77. Martha checks her phone, constantly waiting to hear from family, feeling hurt when a day goes by without a call. Her mood rises and falls depending on others' attention. Irene, in contrast, begins her day with a walk, makes a light breakfast, and reads in the afternoon. She loves her family dearly, but doesn't need constant interaction to feel valued. Her joy isn't tied to other people's behavior. It's steady, like a well that fills from the inside. This kind of emotional strength doesn't come overnight. It's forged through seasons of disappointment, loss, and growth. It often appears in people who faced life's trials, widowhood, illness, betrayal, and discovered that even when others weren't there, they could still stand on their own. That kind of resilience is not loud or flashy, but it's powerful. Emotionally independent seniors are calm in the face of distance. They understand that love isn't measured by how often someone visits, but by the quality of connection when it happens. They don't overreact. They don't beg for attention, and they don't take every silence personally. Instead, they use that time to build themselves. They rest. They create. They enjoy small rituals. They refill their own cup. And ironically, because they don't cling to others, people often feel more drawn to them. Their peace becomes contagious. Their presence feels safe. So if you find that you no longer need external approval to feel content, that you can weather emotional storms without unraveling, you're not too withdrawn. You've just grown into something many people spend a lifetime chasing: emotional freedom. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Trait 3, highly observant. People who prefer solitude often see more than they say. While others might be busy talking, planning, or rushing, quiet seniors tend to notice the details. The way someone hesitates before answering, the way a bird lands near the window, or how the sky shifts in the early morning. They live with a level of awareness that isn't always obvious, but it's always present. Think about Howard and Ben, both 70. Howard spends most of his days surrounded by conversation, always in the middle of things, but rarely remembers the small stuff. What someone was wearing, how they were feeling, what they didn't say. Ben, meanwhile, spends time alone tending to his garden, reading, or just sitting on his porch. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, he's quick to point out how a neighbor's mood has shifted or how the leaves started turning early this year. His solitude isn't emptiness, it's attention. Highly observant people don't need constant stimulation. They find depth in the ordinary. A crack in the sidewalk, a forgotten photograph, or the tone in someone's voice tells them stories others might miss. And that observation comes from the space silence gives. Without all the external noise, their senses stay sharp. This quality makes them valuable in quiet, steady ways. They're the ones who remember your favorite tea, who spot the early signs of trouble before anyone else does, or who bring up something you said months ago because it mattered to them. They don't just see what's in front of them, they see what's underneath. In a world that's constantly moving, constantly shouting, this kind of sensitivity is rare, and it's often misunderstood. People assume silence means someone isn't paying attention, but often it's the opposite. They're paying deeper attention than anyone else in the room. So if you find yourself drawn to details others skip over, if you feel more connected to the world when it's quiet, if you notice the subtle shifts that most people miss, then what you have isn't just a personality quirk. It's a strength, one that's been quietly growing stronger with every moment of stillness you've chosen. Trait 4, selective with relationships. One of the most defining traits of seniors who enjoy being alone is that they're deeply selective about who they allow into their inner circle. They don't chase after acquaintances or fill their calendars with casual catch-ups. Instead, they choose depth over breadth. They'd rather have 2 meaningful conversations in a week than 20 shallow ones. Let's look at Dorothy and Patricia, both in their early 80s. Dorothy is constantly surrounded by people, always saying yes to group outings and social commitments. She enjoys the activity, but often ends up feeling drained and unnoticed. Patricia, however, spends most of her time by herself, occasionally meeting with just 2 longtime friends she trusts. They talk about real things, life, purpose, even fear. And she walks away from those conversations feeling fuller, not emptier. Being selective isn't about being unfriendly. It's about knowing your energy is valuable, and you don't want to waste it on relationships that feel one-sided or superficial. These individuals have often lived long enough to know how it feels to be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. That's why they choose carefully now. They've learned that peace is better than forced connection. This trait also reflects emotional maturity. They're not chasing popularity or trying to be liked by everyone. They're not afraid to say no. They've come to value their time, their space, and their energy, and they spend it like it's gold. The people they do let in tend to be those who see them, respect them, and can hold meaningful space with them. It's common for people like this to have 1 or 2 lifelong friends, a sibling they still call regularly, or even a neighbor they've quietly built a bond with over years of small acts of kindness. But they're not going to pretend just to keep company, and they're not going to engage in drama, gossip, or performance. If you found yourself stepping away from large groups, feeling more drawn to quiet connection than busy gatherings, that doesn't mean you're becoming isolated. It means you're becoming intentional. And intentionality in relationships is one of the strongest signs of self-respect there is. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Trait 5, creatively inclined. There's something quietly beautiful about the way solitude and creativity often walk hand in hand. Seniors who enjoy being alone are frequently the ones who write poetry in the morning, sketch in notebooks no one else sees, or hum tunes they never bother recording. Their creativity doesn't need an audience. It thrives in silence. Take Henry and Wallace, both 79. Henry fills his days with errands, sports talk, and television, always needing background noise. Wallace, however, spends long stretches at his workbench, building small wooden birds. He rarely shows them to anyone. It's not about praise, it's about process. That quiet focus, that act of creation, gives him purpose. It connects him to something bigger than himself. Being creatively inclined doesn't mean you have to be a painter or a novelist. It means you have a mind that plays, that rearranges ideas, finds beauty in patterns, and turns solitude into a canvas. It might show up in the way you rearrange your home, how you cook a meal, how you organize your garden. The creative spark doesn't need applause, it just needs room. And seniors who seek solitude often do so because that's where that spark lives. In the absence of chatter, they hear melodies. In the quiet of a morning, they stitch together words. In a sunbeam falling across the floor, they feel inspiration. Their creativity is personal, intimate, and often sacred. This kind of personality trait is deeply nourishing. It helps prevent cognitive decline. It offers emotional release, and it adds meaning to days that might otherwise feel too still. When the world slows down, creative people speed up inside. They write letters, build model trains, knit scarves for neighbors, or craft stories in their minds they may never tell aloud. And while others might see them as loners, what they don't see is the rich, textured world unfolding behind their eyes. It's not isolation, it's imagination. It's the ability to take something plain and make it beautiful, not for anyone else's approval, but because the act itself feels right. If you felt this, if you find joy in making, building, writing, or simply dreaming, especially when you're alone, then know that this is not a small thing. It's a sign of deep vitality, a personality tuned to the music beneath the noise. And it's one of the most quietly powerful traits a person can carry. Trait 6, strong self-discipline. Another trait that often shows up in seniors who prefer solitude is strong self-discipline. These are the individuals who don't need someone else to tell them when to get up, when to take their medication, or how to stay on track with their routines. They're guided by something internal, a quiet rhythm they've built over time. Let's consider George and Harold, both 82. George thrives in group settings. He joins every senior class, depends on group reminders to take care of himself, and feels lost without outside structure. Harold, on the other hand, begins his mornings at the same time each day. He makes his bed, does light stretching, and prepares a simple, nourishing breakfast. No one's watching. No one's grading him. He does it because it brings him peace, because it aligns with who he is. That kind of internal consistency is no accident. It comes from a lifetime of learning how to keep promises to yourself, even when no one else is around. It's what allows these seniors to remain calm and grounded, even when life becomes unpredictable. When they're faced with a challenge, a new diagnosis, a family issue, a change in routine, they don't fall apart. They adjust. They rely on their habits, their values, their quiet structure. And often this discipline is invisible to others. It's not dramatic or loud. It's in the way they remember to water their plants, the way they write down their grocery lists, the way they track their blood pressure without being told. They don't expect others to carry their load. They've learned how to carry it themselves with steadiness and grace. This self-discipline also brings a deeper form of freedom. When you trust yourself to follow through, you don't need to rely on others to keep you going. You become the architect of your own life, even if it's a small, simple life. That sense of ownership builds confidence, and that confidence spills over into everything else: how you walk, how you speak, and how you face each new day. So if you've found that you can stick to routines without being told, that you hold yourself to a certain standard, even when no one's watching, then recognize that for what it is, it's not rigidity. It's self-respect, and it's one of the clearest signs of a strong, quiet character. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Trait 7, spiritually grounded. There's a kind of peace that settles over people who no longer need the world to keep them company. Seniors who enjoy solitude often carry this quiet peace, not because they've given up on connection, but because they've developed a deep connection within. They are spiritually grounded. Take Eleanor and June, both 84. Eleanor keeps her television on all day, not because she's watching, but because she hates silence. She feels uneasy without noise, unsure of what to do with stillness. June, however, embraces that quiet. She sits by the window with her hands resting gently in her lap. She doesn't pray in the traditional sense, but she reflects. She asks herself questions. She thinks about the past, the future, and what might lie beyond both. Being spiritually grounded doesn't mean you follow a certain religion. It means you've found a way to connect with something deeper, whether that's nature, faith, memory, or meaning itself. You've begun to understand that life isn't just about what you do, but how you carry it. This trait often emerges in people who have seen both joy and suffering. They've loved and lost, succeeded and failed, and somewhere along the way they stopped needing all the answers. They became okay with mystery, with waiting, with knowing that not everything has to be fixed or explained. And this quiet spirituality becomes a source of strength. When others panic, they stay calm. When others complain, they listen. When life gets hard, they go inward, not to escape, but to find steadiness. They've cultivated a relationship with the silence, and in that silence, they've found peace. People like this aren't easily rattled. They don't chase distractions or beg for certainty. They sit with what is. And in doing so, they often become anchors for others, calm in crisis, steady in storms, and gentle when the world feels harsh. So if you find that solitude brings you comfort instead of fear, if you've learned to feel something sacred in the quiet moments of life, then you carry one of the most powerful traits a person can develop with age: spiritual depth. A kind of rootedness that no noise, no loss, and no change can take away. Final thoughts. Now that you've heard these 7 distinct traits, pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many of these sound like you? Do you find peace in silence? Do you prefer fewer, deeper relationships? Do you feel more connected when you're alone than when you're in a crowd? If so, you're not just someone who enjoys solitude. You're someone who's grown into your wisdom, someone who has shaped a life with purpose, reflection, and depth. Society often paints solitude as something to be feared or fixed. But as you've seen today, for many seniors, being alone isn't a sign of isolation, it's a sign of evolution. It's the result of years of living, learning, and letting go of things that don't matter. It's not about avoiding the world. It's about choosing your own pace, your own company, and your own peace. And these traits, deep thinking, emotional independence, sharp observation, selective relationships, creative flow, disciplined habits, and spiritual grounding, they don't just appear overnight, they're earned. They're the quiet rewards of a life lived with intention. So if you've ever wondered whether your love for solitude is something to be concerned about, let this reassure you, you're not withdrawing from life. You're connecting to it on a different level. You're not less social. You're more selective. And that means the people who do know you, really know you, see something special. Let this be a reminder that your quiet nature is not a weakness. It's a strength. And in a world that rarely stops talking, your silence may be the very thing that speaks the loudest. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.